Have a seat. We've got a few chairs up front here too, as always. We won't fight. It's like church, no one sits in the front here. Thanks. Wow, what a great group tonight. This is super, especially with the slightly nasty weather out there. It's good to see you all and welcome. We'll open the meeting officially. And I want to welcome the new members since our last meeting. I'm not sure if you're here, but if you are, if you'd stand up, that'd be great. Channing Mubin. Adam Federstein. And Renee Gleason. Okay, we'll have them back at some other time. We also, I know we have 3 guests at least. Michael Toohey is here. Michael, thank you. And Martha Look and Lee Wilcox. Thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate you being here. And please, if you have any questions, wave your hands at us and we'll explain what's going on if you need it. Come on in, there's seats up front. That's what happens. There you go. Okay. We'll start with our land acknowledgement from Lynette.
Marquette County is located on Anishinaabe, Aking, the ancestral and present-day homelands of the Three Fires Confederacy of Odawa, Ojibwe, and Potawatomi. Marquette has been cared for by the Anishinaabe for generations. And while the land was ceded to the United States in treaties of 1842 and 1836, the Anishinaabe retained the rights to hunt, fish, and gather, and live on the land, continuing their practices based on deep knowledge and respect for the land.
Thanks, Lynette. Okay, first order of business is to approve the agenda, which you all should have gotten in your notices if you're members. So could I have a motion to approve the agenda? From whoever you are. Okay, accept the blank book. Yes, Johanna, thank you. And a second? Thanks, Andy. Okay, any questions, additions, subtractions from the agenda? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no? Thank you. We have our agenda. And for once, I'm not adding to it either. So next, I need a motion to approve the minutes from our October 15th meeting. So, Joanna? And second? Lynette? Thank you. Any discussions or questions about the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And we've approved our minutes. Thank you. So Sandy B is going to talk to us next about an interesting program that we're going to be starting.
Okay. So we are going to be doing, so you know how we've done postcards to get out the vote before? Well, times have changed and we're going to do some text banking. And it's going to have a specific message. So this is something that the League of Women Voters Michigan has been doing. They did it last year, they really liked it, and they were doing it for this particular election as well. And so we're gonna try it. So I wanna go over a couple things so you know what's gonna happen, and then I would like some feedback from this. So if this sounds interesting to you, I'm gonna have you email me and tell me what you think. So basically what we will do is we have a person that coordinates this for all of the Michigan leagues. And he pulls together groups of voters. And the groups of voters that he has decided to use this year are people who voted in 2020, but not in 2024. And the message is going to be to try and get these people to get on the permanent absentee ballot list. So they automatically get a ballot when the elections come up. So they have found that research shows that the voting percentage goes up when people get these absentee ballots early and they don't have to think about, oh, I have to go get my absentee ballot or I have to remember to go vote. So that's now our potential message. And so this is a super easy process. We're going to have, we just met today, we have a small committee that is going to pull this together. And we met and talked about having probably an in-person type of event and also a Zoom. And once people know how this goes and gets the link, you can do it anytime you want. There's a certain time period between, I think they have 7 in the morning to 8 at night. But you can do it on your own, and it's so easy. You get on the link, a name comes up, and then you push go. Now, all of the people that will be on our list will be from the 109th. It was just going to be Marquette County, but we decided to do the whole 109th because they're not represented by another league. And so we're going to try and do the whole thing. And so he pulls all of that together. Once people get a text, if they say stop, they never get another one. So I really like, I talked to the person who does it for a long time to make sure this isn't something that people are gonna say, okay, now I hate the League of Women Voters in Marquette County. So we're gonna see how it goes. I wanna read to you the message that we are proposing for this, and then you don't have to give me feedback now, but think about this, it's short. The League of Women Voters of Marquette County urges you to prepare now for the 2026 election. It is easy to sign up for Michigan's permanent absentee voter ballot voter list, and you will get a ballot at home for every election. You can take your time, research, and fill out your ballot while at your kitchen table, and then vote it in any way you want. Mail it back, take it to a drop box, vote it early and in person, or vote it on election day at the polls. And so it has our logo at the top, League of Women Voters of Marquette County, and they get a text message between specified hours, not crazy hours like 7 in the morning till 8 at night. And so we're gonna try it and see how it goes. We have 2 potential dates that we discussed today. We were thinking, get it done early, people just went through an election or heard about an election, and maybe this would be the time to send them out. So we were thinking about November 15th. And then one of the members suggested, you know what? Let's wait and do it in January when all of the holidays and that are over, and maybe that would be a better time. It's already 2026, and then we know that elections will be starting in May. So that's what we're kind of bouncing around right now. I'm in contact with Bob Chun, who is running this program with League of Women Voters Michigan. So that's what we're going to do. It's going to be fun. It's a modern day postcard writing type of event. Yes?
Sandy, when they get the text message, is there also a link they can go to
Yes.
to actually apply?
Yes, it's a link to the Secretary of State.
Great.
So it's pretty straightforward. So I think there's a lot of potential here. I'm really excited about it. I think it will be fun. Yes?
So does Bob have the numbers
Yes.
of people in the 109?
Yes, he coordinates this for the whole state of Michigan. So he does it for anything, like if you've got a league that covers 3 counties, he'll put those 3 counties together. But he tries to pair it up with local people, your people.
So the other thing I ask is, is Delta County part of the 109? No.
I looked it up today. It's all of Marquette County, it's all of Alger County, and then help me out, it sticks down. A little bit of Dickinson County. Yeah.
And Baraga.
Oh, and Baraga, yes. Yeah.
Delta's gonna feel out of,
Delta's not in the 109.
right? Because Delta has an active league.
Okay.
I
But
don't know.
yeah, and we were gonna contact the other leagues too to see, because nobody in the UP is doing this, to see if they want to be involved as well. So we were thinking of doing that. So, yeah.
Where do you get any way of knowing the results? And if somebody
Yes.
tried to reply,
Yes.
where would the reply go?
Yes, and this, so as Bob was explaining it to me, once we go through this process, they collect data. And he actually has a company, but he does this for the league because he's part of the league and he likes the voting thing. So, but once you do that, he then can tell us the results. How many people, that you contacted actually voted. So
Or signed up.
it's really cool, yeah. So they collect these numbers, there's a way to collect them. I don't know how, that's why I wouldn't do it, that's why we have him doing that part. And I do know, I was at the League of Women Voters Michigan meeting, and several of the leagues downstate have done this, and they just raved about it, how fun it was, how useful, and they thought it was very effective. So, yeah.
So aren't we in an area where computer access is a little
Well,
iffy? Because in Ishpeming, when we were trying to put people in touch with the Secretary of State, they had trouble with the internet connection. So how are we going to?
Well, we're gonna try it and see how it goes. We'll be calling people's cell phones, so it's texting. And so, I think this is a trial, and we're gonna see how it goes, and I'll report back after we do it. So, one other thing before I end and let us get on with the evening's, meeting, is that we're thinking about, having at someone's house. So if somebody is thinking, this is really cool, I think I'd like to do this, let me know. Just email me with your questions, email me with your ideas, and we'll get going on this. And this will be in the minutes too, so I'll have Jean put my email if you want to contact me, and we'll talk about it. Yes?
Is there any way that we can reach the college students and have them do anything like this, or they?
Well, so for this particular event, it is simply going to be people who voted in 2020, but not 2024. And they reside in the area that we are picking out. And the number won't come from, so like if you're doing this on your phone, this is a good thing just to know. Nothing about you comes up, not your phone number, not your name. It is League of Women Voters, and it's a 906 number, so it's, I asked a lot of questions when we were going through it. So it's personal, it's from us, and I think it's worth a try. Yeah.
And just, all we have to do is click it. We don't have to.
Yeah, you don't have to type anything.
Thank you, Sandy.
You don't need to. You won't get to.
Sandy says, let her know if there's questions, but it's pretty cool. Sounds like a pretty cool program. And we may be able to expand after we do this the first time too. Okay, I'm going to give you a quick report about our strategic planning. The group doing the planning, which is the board plus others, it was like 20-some people. We met with Pam again, and she had taken all of the things we'd come up with as far as our visions and what we thought our strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats were, combined them all, put them all together, we discussed them, we broke up, and we broke up a lot, but we broke up into groups, and then we talked about specific goals and objectives. So she is now compiling that. So we typed them all up from our group, and we sent them to her, she's compiling that. The board will be taking all of that and putting together a report for the members, which we plan to give to you for the January meeting, and give it to you ahead of time so you can read it. And then the whole meeting basically will be discussing the strategic plan, goals, objectives, what your ideas are, and if you can come and do that with us, that'd be great, but it will be in the minutes as well, and people can email us with ideas, everyone will get the report. So anyone can email in with their ideas. So we'll be taking all of that for our final report. Does that make sense, kind of? Okay, cool. Announcements are up here. Tomorrow is the environmental committee meeting. Then we wanted you to know that in December, we will have a program, but the last half of the meeting will be a welcome winter party. And if you are able to bring treats to share, that would be great. And we would appreciate it if you could bring one unwrapped book. Doesn't have to be a brand new book, it could be a nice used book as well, but something that you like. And we'll be exchanging them. You'll be getting a number, and your book will get a number, and we'll have a drawing, and we'll exchange the books, and then we can talk about books for the rest of the evening. So I think that should be a lot of fun. Our membership committee has been putting that together. Okay, we have time for member comments about anything we've talked about tonight or anything at all. Johanna?
I printed off, or had printed off, a couple of pages about a new initiative of the National League of Women Voters called Unite and Rise 8.5. It was organized responding to declaring a constitutional crisis. The League of Women Voters launched Unite and Rise, which aims to mobilize 8.5 million people harnessing the power of voter engagement as a fundamental part of our democracy. And
Excuse me, Joe, could you stand?
Oh, yeah.
Thanks.
did everybody hear that? Yeah. Okay, good. Sort of using my teacher voice. So this just explains what it is about Unite and Rise, the 4 pillars of Unite and Rise, guiding values, stronger together, and power in partnership. So we are now partners with the National Council of Jewish Women and the American Association of University Women have all joined in this initiative. So if you want more information, these are what it looks like on the table back there. Please help yourself. You can also go to the National League website and find Unite and Rise and the same information. And every 2 months, there is a new plan of attack of what we're going to be doing. So I'm just the liaison person for this organization, and if you have any questions, I may or may not be able to answer them.
It is a national initiative, and all of you who are members should be getting some kind of announcements periodically from the U.S. League. I'm seeing some nodding. Are people getting those? Okay, as well as the league alerts from the Michigan League. So all of that information is in there. You can go to the website and get.
And you can sign up to get more information about this from the National League.
And just as a league member, you can actually, there's a pledge of commitment to this that you can do if you want. There are suggestions of things you can do as an individual and as a league member. So it's an interesting ongoing initiative. Any other comments? Yes, Jen.
I just wanted to say how much I appreciated seeing today our state league taking a position to fight the fishing expedition on voter information, keeping our state's elections and our data for our voters private and personal to remediate any particular threats or voter intimidation that might occur from that. So I appreciated that very much from our league, and very proud again to be a member of the League of Women Voters.
Thanks, Jen. Are you all aware of that the league is joining the lawsuit, basically, that the DOJ and the state of Michigan are in? So it'll be very interesting. Yes, Jean?
So, as a league, we like to let all our members know that we care about them. So if anyone is a member and is going through a medical situation or a death or just any reason that they might need some support, let me know and I'll send out a caring card to them.
Thank you, Jane. Anyone who's ever received cards from Jane know how beautiful they are. And we can have Jane's email in the minutes, is that okay? Great, thank you. Oh, and it's not up here, but I want to remind you, please bring your receipts, your TADICH receipts This is a not huge but constant source of income for the league, and we do it every year. So remember to bring them, and there's a little box out there you can stuff them in. Thank you.
Or the envelope.
Or an envelope, or what, there'll be something in there. Let's see. Oh, I forgot about the tree. You all may have seen the league holiday trees in the library before. The library's doing sort of a bigger deal for a winter solstice art exhibit. So there's going to be trees actually throughout the library, not just in that one area, plus special art exhibits during that time. So we've put our application in. We need to decorate sometime between November 24th and December 5th. We haven't decided when yet, we'll let you know. We've got the decorations, you don't have to make them, but it's really fun putting them on the tree. And then we'll let you know, I could not find the actual date of the evening thing, the special thing that the library is doing, but we'll let you know that too. But you can come anytime and look at the trees. Okay, any other member comments?
Lynette, what about the,
What?
the cameras? Did we talk about that?
I think we've got it approved. We were hoping to, considering the crisis that's going on with food acquisition right now,
Right.
in the next, whoever knows how many weeks, we thought we'd join in and encourage league members to bring food to that December meeting, and TV Canathon should still be going on downstairs. We were originally going to try to do our own thing, but we're limited sometimes in our abilities to schlep cans around town. So we thought we'd do this, and if we can get away with it, we want to put a little special box down next to or close to the TV Canathon collection, just saying with love for the leagues and the voters. So we encourage you to do that. Thank you for that.
That's right, thanks. I forgot to put that on the announcement too. But you'll be getting your notice for your December meeting, and all that will be a reminder too for what you can do. Okay, then we will proceed to our program, and I am very happy to introduce our speaker tonight, our very own David Allen, who is a longtime league member, has been on the board, who runs the Observer Corps, and outside the league has been on the, whatever this is, the Brownfield Authority in the past, and is now on it again, and he is our living, breathing authority on the Brownfield, and we'll figure this out. You can talk while I'm doing this.
All right. So tonight, you'll see in a second that the name of this presentation is Brownfield. Is it really a good idea? You might already have an opinion about this, or maybe you've never even heard of it. But either way, I'm going to try to give you my answer to that question in 5 parts. Thanks, Jim.
I'm going to count 5.
And those parts are, I want to talk to you a little bit about the conceptual underpinnings of Brownfield programs. I want to talk about the fundamental tool that Brownfield uses, which is tax incremental financing, or TIF. I want to talk to you about how Brownfield works in the state of Michigan. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the city of Marquette's Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, where I'm a member, on the board. And then I'm going to try to talk about how Brownfield fits into sort of bigger picture issues that you might care about. So let's talk about conceptual underpinnings. So if you've never heard about Brownfield, I want to tell you a little story about how Brownfield came about. It all starts back in the early part of the last century. A company called Hooker Chemical in upstate New York started making industrial chemicals. They're probably on Salt Dome, just like down where Dow is in Michigan, which is a good place to make chemicals. They made a lot of chemicals there. Hooker eventually became Occidental Corp, one of the largest chemical companies in the world. And during their operations in the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, they dumped 22,000 tons of industrial chemical waste into a canal. And then they had a mess, so they just covered it up with some dirt, and they sold it to the school board for $1. Now, part of that dollar meant that the school board accepted all of the liability, so that's why it was a fair price. $1 in cash, you're responsible from now on. The school board then developed the place, put a school on it, put a neighborhood on it, and over the decades, this industrial waste started to seep out into the soil and water, and it made a huge number of people terribly, terribly sick. Nobody knew what to do because the liability shield was already in place, and the school board didn't have any money. So what do? And this place, which is called Love Canal, you may have heard of it, Love Canal in New York, became a poster child for industrial waste sites all across the country. The federal government declared an emergency in 1978 to try to figure out what to do about it at the federal level. And it was a poster child from then on. 2 years later, the federal statute that started Superfund began. It's called CERCLA. You don't care about this, but it's the Comprehensive Environmental Response Compensation Liability Act, passed in December of 1980, was a direct response to Love Canal and other places like it. And this statute is a brand new way to take care of these kinds of problems, and it does two main things. One, it taxes the petroleum and chemical industries, which goes into a gigantic pot of money called the Superfund. And that Superfund is basically to take care of sites that are orphan sites, sites where there's nobody left to do the cleanup when it's expensive. And you can also use the Superfund to do a cleanup, even if there is somebody there to clean up, and then EPA or state agencies that are equivalent of EPA can then sue whoever is responsible for the cost and recover the money, which goes back into the Superfund. So that's the first thing. That's the most famous part of the law. That's the part that everybody thinks about, Superfund, but it is not the most important part of the law. The most important part of the law is the liability scheme that was created. The liability scheme makes any owner, any operator, and any arranger of disposal liable for any of the injuries or damages which come from hazardous waste which have been released. This liability scheme is extremely powerful. It basically shatters the main shields that people use to keep from being liable, which is successors. So I sold it for $1, you're still liable. Now, you may have a contractual arrangement, you may be able to sue whoever you did this with, but you are still liable to the federal government and state governments. It also pierces corporate shields, corporate successors. So a lot of times you can structure a corporation which owns another operation. The operation does something that causes this problem, but you can't sue the corporation, now you can. So it's a huge, important thing. The reason it's so important is, once every financial institution, real estate agent, property owner knows about this liability and knows they can't escape it, the private sector now starts to police themselves. Nobody wants to own a Superfund property, and that means that people will prevent this stuff from happening in the first place. That's the beauty of Superfund. But as usual, there are unintended consequences. Nobody wants to touch a Superfund site. That's good, right? But it's also bad, right? Because if you have an old industrial site and new development comes in, people aren't going to touch it. They're going to go develop a green space and ruin that green space instead of redeveloping the old site. So we had to figure out a way to prevent industrial rings around cities being developed and abandoned once they're polluted. Those industrial rings are called brownfields. It's the opposite of a green space. Brownfield. So brownfield is what I'm talking about, right? So this is where it comes from. How do we fix this so we don't just swallow up all the green space with more and more industry? So the brownfield program is actually not just one thing. It's an idea that has caused a whole bunch of legislation in individual states and at the federal level, and it did a whole bunch of things in succession. The first thing that people tried to do is they said, well, maybe we should make a very limited liability shield for financial institutions which are innocent, which had nothing to do with the owner owning, operating, or arranging for disposal. but which might have financial instruments that could be used for redevelopment. Let's make sure that those innocent financial institutions are not sucked into the Superfund liability. So that was the first thing that happened. It was called a rifle shot change to CERCLA. Then they said, well, we need to go further than that. We also need to shield innocent landowners and developers who might want to come into a brownfield and redevelop it. Tell them up front, if you do this thing, you won't be responsible for something you had nothing to do with in the first place. So now we have two ways to allow people to come in and redevelop: money from banks, and then developers and owners can try to do something about these industrial sites to make them new, better industrial sites for the future. After that, people started to think, well, maybe we could actually make financing easier to overcome these extraordinary problems at these sites. They might still be contaminated, they might need all sorts of work before you can even do anything there. Maybe we can find a way to finance those things using governmental programs, which is where we're going to go next, is TIFs, tax incremental financing. And then, in places like Michigan, it was so successful, they said, well, it doesn't just have to be toxic sites. What about other kinds of sites? Like just abandoned places, derelict properties, things like that. And so you'll see that Michigan has really got one of the most far-reaching brownfield programs in the country. So, tax incremental financing is this financial incentive to try to affect how developers and financial institutions spend their money and where they spend it. I'm going to try, this is the second part of the story. I'm going to try to describe how this works. I've got a graph here, so you don't have to think too much about these words, but what happens is, if a brownfield site is approved, I'll get into that in a little bit too, that establishes a base year. That base year sets the property value in the base year, and the property taxes that go with that base year value is the base level into the future. That money, before you start a brownfield, goes to the taxing authorities, cities, state, libraries, etc., right? That is never touched. That base amount of property value and the property taxes that come from it are never affected. They continue to go to the same institutions they went to before. But now if someone comes in, a bank and a developer say, and they invest their own private money to do stuff to develop the site, the property value goes up, usually skyrockets. This creates additional property taxes, which can then be used under a brownfield plan to pay off those extraordinary costs that the developer faces, which we'll get into in a second. Once all of those costs are paid off from the TIFs, that additional money that's been created continues to come in and now goes to the same jurisdictions that were taxing authorities to begin with, libraries, cities, et cetera, et cetera. This is what, I like another slide here. A couple things. So this can include not only local taxes, but state taxes for the environmental activities, so clean up, things like that. Local taxes can also be used beyond the extraordinary costs to go into a local revolving fund that can then be used for additional brownfield activities in the community. After the eligible activities are paid off, the higher taxes continue. Base rate is not including the TIFs. And this is what it looks like. This, right here, this orange bar, that's that base level that goes into the future. And that level is the same whether you do a brownfield or not. You don't do a brownfield, probably, nothing will be developed because of these obstacles. And the taxing authorities will get this orange bar. If you do a brownfield instead, the orange bar still goes to the taxing authority. This is the part, the orange bar is the part that people don't remember when they say, brownfield, it's stealing money from our taxing authorities. No, it's not. This money is never touched. These blue bars are the extraordinary costs that the developers use their own money or financial institutions' money if they get loans or bonds. This is used to develop the property, which increases its value, which increases the property tax value. And this money then is owed in property taxes by the owner, by the developer. And now he has to pay that property tax to himself for the extraordinary costs that were approved in the brownfield plan. And this continues until it's paid off. Now for local taxes, you have the option of putting money into the local revolving fund. You do. That can last for up to 5 years. And then the green bars are new taxes that never would have been available without the brownfield. So this is all money you would never have gotten in ever before. Now it is true, you don't get this money over here, right? So you have to wait a little while. But waiting a little while is better than never getting it. So this is the fundamental concept at the heart of brownfield. It's a financial taxing program. This is how it works. A little bit more detail about how brownfield works in Michigan. You can only do this for eligible properties. And the eligible properties are defined in the state statute. There are only certain kinds of properties where you can do this. You can't just do it anywhere. It has to be a special kind of property. What kind of property is that? It's one that's contaminated, for instance, which means there are chemicals above state criteria in the soils and the water. If you have that kind of a site, you can be an eligible property. It can also be a blighted property. Blighted property is one that is an official public nuisance that's been declared by the local jurisdiction to be a public nuisance, or one that has had all its utilities disconnected. So that means it's a property that is no longer doing anything, it's just sitting there. Like, say, the old hospital. It can also be functionally obsolete, another thing that applies to the old hospital. It may no longer be useful for its intended purpose. So that's a third kind of property. Fourth, it can be historically designated. And fifth, and this is brand new, it can be used for a housing property for affordable housing units up to 120% of the median average income, which we'll get into in a little bit. So in Michigan, if you meet one of these 5 sets of criteria as a property, it's an eligible property. At those eligible properties, you can only do eligible activities under these TIFs. You can't just do anything. You can't just say, I'm gonna, I don't know, make something up. It has to be something that fits under the statute. So you can do environmental assessments of the property, figure out how bad the problems are and what needs to be done about it. You can do any kind of due care, which is anything that's required to prevent the contamination there from becoming worse, like dumping it into Lake Superior, say. It can be additional cleanup that is required to make the site safe for whatever the development's going to be. It can be for demolition of derelict structures. And if it's a core community under a brownfield plan, you can do site preparation and infrastructure, like sewer lines in the public streets. And Marquette is one of the places that is a core community, and to go through a whole process to get approved for that. So in Marquette, we can do the whole suite of things. You can also do property acquisition. And then this new part, housing development. This just came in the last couple of years. For people who make no more than 120% of the area median income, which is a very complicated formula that's figured out by MSHDA, another state agency, and by banks. You can do a development where the cost of the development is higher to actually sell the property or rent the property would, at a profit or to even break even, would be more than anybody at 120% can afford. You can now use TIFs to make up the difference between the 120% level. You can actually go lower. You can make it 100% or 80% for different levels of income, so that, and this is the real key, so that financial institutions will still give loans to the developer and be assured that they're going to make their money back. So that's the key. MSHDA and the banks have to be assured that if they put money into the development, they'll get the money back out. And right now, as you probably know, building a new structure for housing costs more than most people can afford, which is why housing prices are so high and rentals are so high. So when this happens, you can do this financial gap with TIFs. You can acquire existing rental units, you can do rehabilitation, site prep, abatement, demolition. And so these eligible properties and eligible activities are very broad in Michigan. But in order to do it, you can't just say, I'm going to do it. You have to go to, in our case, the city and the Brownfield Authority both, with a brownfield plan that proves that you have all of these, met all these requirements for being eligible for properties and activities. Has to be approved officially by each, the City Commission and the Brownfield Authority, before you start. There also has to be a development agreement, which shows the cascade of financing. When money comes in from the property taxes, who has the right to it first, second, third, and fourth. It's another legal document, has to be approved by both the City Commission and the Brownfield Authority. And then, once the work is done, and the property taxes start to come in, these higher property taxes, you can now submit invoices for the eligible activities that were approved under the Brownfield plan, and use your property tax to pay off the TIF, right? And every one of those invoices has to come back to the authority to be approved. Importantly, you can't come to the Brownfield Authority and say, our expenses are higher than we expected, we want even more money to be paid off now. You cannot get more money than the TIFs that have been collected in property taxes so far. Okay? So that's how TIFs work. So now I'm going to talk about what's actually happening right here in Marquette, the city of Marquette. There's also a county brownfield, but I'm going to talk about the city brownfield, which is the one I work on. This was established by the City Commission in 1997 under the state statute. There are 7 voting members that have 3-year terms. The city treasurer sits on the board as an ex officio MBRA treasurer. That's very important because this stuff is incredibly complicated. The numbers are really complicated. When I first got on this board, and I started to see $1 million invoices, and I was like, I'm supposed to decide how to vote on it. We'll get this treasurer, we have really good treasurers, and Tara is her name. She does a great job. So she's key. We also have a part-time executive director, that's Sherry Davey, who has spoken here to us about other things. And we have a long-term brownfield expert who lives in Traverse City and does nothing but brownfields around the state. And we have him on retainer, and we have him at almost every meeting. And then the deputy city manager, Sean Hobbs, is the liaison to the city. So, what has actually happened in Marquette? This is the Cliffsdale project. Here's what Cliffsdale looked like when it was still an active industrial site. They made charcoal. Then they figured out if you make charcoal, you get all these chemicals that come off of it. And you can make chemicals that you can sell, like acetone and methyl alcohol, all sorts of things. So it became also a chemical plant, our very own chemical plant, right? Okay. This is what the site looks like today from the air. This is the dome. These are the soccer fields. This was never contaminated. That up there is BioLife. That's a development that was done in a brownfield. That's also not contaminated. And so that was done. They've already paid off all their TIFs, and they've already paid up money into the revolving fund. That project's done. What's left is this nasty part in the middle, which is where all the contamination is. And for a long time, this is monitored. It used to be a Superfund site, and there's the state is in charge of this Superfund site. And there's required monitoring. They have wells that are dug down to measure the groundwater, a bunch of contaminants that are volatile organic compounds that are just like what you'd think from a site like this. And the numbers are coming down and down and down. And we're getting really close to like it's going to be safe. And it's like, we can do something. We can finally do something. And then they spiked back up and nobody knew why. And so the city's like, oh no, what are we going to do? And the state got involved and said, well, you're going to have to do a lot. So they had to dig some additional wells, and they were doing additional monitoring. This is what the groundwater plume looks like. It basically comes from up here and moves out into Lake Superior. And they actually have to monitor out in Lake Superior. You can actually see nice dark brown water still coming out of the sediments of Lake Superior. And they're trying to figure out what to do about it. And there's a nasty negotiation going on that I'm not a part of between the city and the state about what to do. I think the options include injecting little microbes that like to eat these volatile organic compounds and see if that does the trick, because waiting it out hasn't worked. They may have to put in a barrier wall. Now, they've already done a little bit of this with this new project for the restorations they've done along the lake shore. But they may actually have to put a barrier wall in. That'd be the next least difficult thing to do. They might have to go back in and do some more excavation and try to figure out where it's coming from. That starts to get really expensive. Or they might have to put in a bunch of wells and do pump and treat, which is what the city really doesn't want to have happen. Because that means you have to basically pump water out and clean it up as it comes out, usually for 30 or 40 years. That's really expensive. So hopefully through some combination of things, these numbers will finally get down below the criteria levels, and something will finally get done with this property. So right now, Brownfield is responsible for the BioLife project, and we are paying through the revolving fund for the monitoring of this site to see how the levels are going. So we're basically picking up the city's monitoring costs. They're not real high, but it's a regular cost for us. The next project is Founder's Landing. Now, Founder's Landing is basically everything towards you from the ore dock. And this is what the site used to look like. Tank farm, railroads, all sorts of contamination both from the tanks and from the railroad. And here's what it looks like now. So this is the ore dock now looking this way. We were looking from there before. There's a whole bunch of, there's 2 hotels, a bunch of condos, some real retail space. There's a public pier, a public boardwalk. All this was done under the brownfield, under a brownfield plan that was approved years ago. About $100 million of private funding has gone into this site. It's been invested so far. The seawall, the boardwalk, the pier, the street extension for Barrett, all paid for with TIFs. 89 condos, 68 apartments, 2 hotels, and real estate space. So, whatever you think about these buildings, you might not like these buildings, but they might be better than that. And I also point out, even for the sight line, no building is taller than the tallest tank. So, you still don't have to like the buildings, but that's what Brownfield did. So now let's talk about Liberty Way. This is the old bread factory before the thing started. It was abandoned, sitting there.
Was it money bread?
Yeah,
That's not funny.
it's a Tasty or something like that.
Where was that?
This is it's on it's right there. This is Washington. There's the hospital. UPHP, State Bridge, Nicolay Bank. So, in this case, this is all done under a brownfield. All 3 of these buildings were put in integrated parking. 203 new jobs. And it looks like this now, and you might not like the way that looks, but it probably looks better than that. And it's certainly better for the property taxes. The next one is Nestle Down. This is what Nestle Down used to look like. And here's what it looks like now. This is a smaller one. Only $1 million investment from the private sector. TIF is completely paid off. $25,000 has already gone to the local revolving fund. And now it's this bed and breakfast. Most people don't mind this building. This was the biggest one we've ever done. This is the Duke Life Point Hospital. Very controversial for all sorts of reasons that have nothing to do with Brownfield. It's a new hospital on the old roundabout. It was a railroad, where you change. That's where that was built, and office space. And using the public infrastructure part because we're a core community, the new municipal building for the city, and these new nifty roundabouts that you might not like. But that was all done under Brownfield. Now, the expected investment for this was about $200 million. The actual investment is $475 million.
Yeah.
So the amount of time to pay out the TIFs was cut in half. Now, it's still being done, but it's getting close to being paid off. Once this is paid off, more than $1 million a year of property taxes will come to the city. So we're just trying to get through the financial part of the city to where this starts to come in, and it's going to make all the difference in the world. And again, you might not like the way these buildings look, but That's what was done. The next one is 231 West Patisserie. Yes?
How is the repayment or the length of the TIF part of it set?
Under the brownfield plan, at the very beginning, one of the requirements is that you say how much each eligible activity will cost, your best estimate of what it will cost, your best estimate of what the property value increase will be, and therefore what the property taxes will be, and therefore how much time will those property taxes take to pay off those expenses. And it's a projection, it's the best guess, it's usually done by our consultant in coordination with the Brownfield Authority, the City Commission, the developers, and the bank. Then what actually happens is the amount of property taxes that actually come in pay off the actual expenses that were invoiced, and it takes however much time it takes. In this case, half the time that was projected. So patisserie, this is the little coffee shop and pastry shop on Washington. This is what it looked like at the beginning. And here's what it looks like now. $3 million invested, 18 jobs, and the DDA walkway put in under the brownfield. Another small one. Here's the Customs House project. So this is the old Customs House. Before it started, it was abandoned. Here's in the middle of the construction. Of course, it's now been built out, and there's 6 very expensive condos. And you might not like how expensive those condos are, but it's still probably better than this. It's certainly better for the property taxes that are coming in. UP State Bank. This is what it looked like when we started. It used to be a Burger King, abandoned. That's what it looked like. This is a derelict property. Here's what it looks like now. UP State Bank. $4 million invested there. The Vault Hotel, which is just getting started right now. This is what it looks like. It's kind of a grainy shot. This is what it looks like. So now we're looking at, this is the old savings and loan bank. It's going to be the actual Lean Hotel. There's the beer lane. Here's the parking lot behind. Here's what the developers are intending to build. And not everybody likes it, but it meets code. It's form-based code. And form-based code means you have to build out to the edge of the development. It's a zoning requirement. And it has to be a certain number of stories. It can't be more than a certain number of stories. And this fits all within form-based code under the planning commission's purview. And this is what they're intending to do. I forget what $30 million is the estimated investment. 70,000 square foot hotel, 40 condos, retail space, and a 200 space parking deck. This is one of the most interesting things. It turns out there are whole consulting companies that specialize in doing modeling of parking. And so I got to sit in all these. I mean, I'm kind of a geek, so I was like, wow, this is really neat model. Basically what it is, the hotel has peak demand for parking at night when their guests are sleeping. But the city has peak demand for parking in the day when people want to go downtown. And if you just have a hotel parking lot, it's wasted half the time. If you just have a city parking lot, it's wasted half the time. So this is going to be constructed under a brownfield TIF to build a parking garage, which will eventually be owned by the DDA. Brownfield will own it for a little while, but then it'll be given to the DDA. The DDA will now have a 200 space parking deck that they can use downtown, right in the heart of downtown, all done with the developer's money for a TIF. And you might not like parking garages, but this will really help the parking situation. Now these next two are really complicated. I'm not going to get too much into the details. These are the most difficult to understand. That's the newest. We have 2 projects that are for affordable housing. So this is the CHIP housing project, which is, if you go across the highway on Grove, it's on the left. Like what's the little cows? So it's over there. So it's this building up here. This is being taken over, and they're going to create affordable housing. And what that means is they're going to have 7 apartments for people that make no more than 100% of the area median income, and 7 more at 120%. And the people who live there have to prove that they're at those levels. And the TIFs will pay the difference between the cost of developing this and that more affordable price tag for 22 years. Luckily, we also got a Michigan, that's the Michigan State Housing Development Authority, $1 million grant went into this, which will now cut the TIF down to 13 years. So the TIF only lasts 13 years, but the program will last 22. I guess it's 20 years, so it's 3 numbers. The TIF was going to be 22, it'll now be 13. It'll be a 20-year horizon for this affordable. After the 20 years, it can go back to market prices. Yes?
Hi. What is Marquette's median income?
I don't know off the top of my head. Yes,
I
Sue?
think it's $49,000.
Okay.
Yes.
So we're really excited about this because affordable housing, like, that's on everyone's mind. Now, this might not be affordable enough. I mean, 120% still, like, these are still not going to be dirt cheap. It's not free by any means, but we think this will start to help some of the housing crisis.
Question.
Yes.
Chippewa Square now has 3 or 4 buildings of offices. Those offices are going to stay there, and then we'll have this apartment complex.
I believe that's correct. I believe it's the second floor, yeah.
So the apartment complex will be
Above,
above it,
yeah.
like.
I think they're redoing that space above to make it 14 apartments. That's my understanding.
One building?
I believe so.
It is one building.
I believe so. The other one is at 441 West Washington. This is the hydroponics building, which was abandoned because it's got a leaky roof and the whole thing got ruined. This is a $4.5 million investment. 11 apartments, 9 of which, 2 of which will be market, 11 of which can't go above 120% of the AMI. There was a negotiation between the city and the developer. The developer originally said, I want to do 1, just the minimum to get in brownfield. And the city said, we're probably not going to approve that. Can you do better? We want them all. They came back and said, well, we might not do all, but what if we do 9? And so they struck this deal where the city commission said, 9 will do it for us. And so here, this is the original building that's going to be built up on top, and we'll have 11 new apartments, 9 of which will be capped.
Question.
Yes?
Are these qualify as brownfield because they have had a specific purpose and that no longer is met? Is that what?
It's because the state law was just modified 2 years ago,
Okay.
specifically to allow affordable housing projects, which brings MISHDA into it. So now it's you've got MISHDA, Brownfield Authority, and the City Commission all have to approve.
Okay.
And it's a brand new part of the law. Michigan keeps expanding what brownfield can be used for.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes?
So, I'm sorry to bring up the past, but I remember an article.
Don't steal my thunder from my last slide. Go ahead.
I remember an article in the Mining Journal.
Yeah.
That talked about why Jacob Eddy Veterans Facility did not take the Dow site.
Yep.
Because they were told that they'd have to accept the site, they could develop it, but the EPA might not let them move in, and they were responsible, so that whoever was writing this article was misinformed.
Let me give you the short answer. There's a longer answer, but I'll give you the short answer. The short answer is, remember way back in the early slides when I said nobody wants to touch the liability of a Superfund site? That's still true even with brownfield. Nobody wants to be left at the end of the day having to pay for whatever the extraordinary costs are. And there's a disagreement between the city and the state about who should be on the hook. Right now the city's on the hook because they bought this property for $1 in 1991. Sounds like Love Canal, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And with that $1, they got the liability, right? And so the city would, like the state, say, we will indemnify you. If there's an extraordinary cost, we'll handle it because it'll be a state building. The state says, what are you, nuts? You get to keep it. And so there's a disagreement. I don't know who's right. I don't know who's wrong. I don't know who's playing hardball. I'm not in that negotiation. But that's basically it boils down to who has to keep the liability, and the state was not willing to say we'll do it. Yes?
So these apartments,
Yeah.
when is their rent gonna suddenly go up?
For this, one was 20 years, and the second one I think is also 20 years.
Years, and after 20 years, they can charge whatever they want?
Yes, but I mean, there are opportunities like, right, so this affordable housing thing it's a big deal, and we're gonna have to come up with more than, this is not gonna solve it. All the brownfield rules not gonna solve it. We're gonna have to figure out, what are we gonna do about this? And I don't pretend to have the answer, but it's at the top of mind, right? So we're gonna have to figure that out. Yes?
Just on parking.
Oh, sorry.
especially the one on-
There's two.
sorry.
Go ahead, yes.
On Washington Street, because we don't live very far from there, there's not enough parking. So when you do a brownfield, does the parking area have to, there's codes in Marquette.
Right.
For, I don't see any place for parking there.
That is a perfect segue for this next slide.
So glad.
But let me get your question first.
Are there any rumblings about what to do about the area of the present veterans facility, that huge, because they're building a new building, correct?
Well, it's not on that central contaminated side. It's further north.
No, I mean the present.
Actually, no, we don't know what's going to happen there yet. I mean, that could end up being potentially a brownfield. I don't know, but it isn't yet. Yes, sir.
So I do know that the senior center
Yeah.
would like that site,
Yeah.
but it
Sure.
takes 10 years
Yeah.
for a state acquisition.
Beyond the scope of this talk. Well, I'll go back to the segue. Okay, go ahead.
So can the developers sell the
Yes.
building? And if they do all the requirements go with to the new owner?
Yes, if it's during the brownfield, if the brownfield is still, now once the brownfield's paid off, once the TIFs are paid off, it's just another property like anything else, and you can do whatever you want, just like anyone else in the private sector. But during the brownfield, you cannot, the obligations are binding. So that development agreement and the brownfield plan are both legally binding documents. So, and you're on the hook, and a purchaser has to be on the hook the same way. Sue, you're ruining my segue.
But doesn't the TIF continue through the downtown district by that authority?
That's a different TIF, but yes, and so that's it. I will just mention, since you brought that up, that there are 3 sets of TIFs in this community: Brownfield, Downtown Development Authority, and the local LFDA, Local Funding Development Authority. And if you do a brownfield plan on one of those 2 other jurisdictions, you have to get an agency agreement between all 3 groups. So then you have to get the approval of the city commission, the brownfield authority, the DDA, and the LFDA. Now, the question was about parking. Which brings me to what I think is the most controversial current project. Cliffsdale might be, but this is the old hospital. It used to look like this. It's all gone now. All of it's gone. You might not like that it's all gone, but it's all gone.
You can see the wind.
Now, this is gonna be, it won't be as big as the Duke Life Point project, but it'll be close. It's either going to be $100 million or $200 million of investment, depending on one key question, which has to do with parking. But let me just show this quickly. This is not a very good picture, but this is the current Viridia proposal. It's not binding. As long as they follow, and there's the brownfield plan, none of this has been inked yet. But this is what the revision basically is. It's basically low density housing towards the neighborhood. So we've got houses here, houses will be built there. And as you go towards the university, it becomes denser and denser. It becomes like duplexes and apartment buildings and then senior living. And green space in between. And there's talk right now about maybe not reopening College Avenue. And we're actually paying from the Brownfield Revolving Fund for a traffic study to determine if you don't reopen College Avenue, what are your alternatives, how it will affect traffic flow and all that. Reconnecting all the paths through there. There's rumors sometimes about a performing arts center, all sorts of stuff. So it's this big thing that's happening right now that everyone's paying attention to. But here's the thing I want to talk about. The brownfield plan included $16 million approved under TIFs for demolition of this property. And this was the main reason this property could not be developed. because whoever's going to develop had $16 million price tag to start with what would otherwise be a green space. Remember, a green space, you don't have to tear anything down. So why don't we just go build in a green space? Well, we use brownfield, we can say we'll cover with TIFs this extraordinary expense of the demolition. And then the state said, this project's so important, we're going to give you a grant. So they gave $16 million in state grants to do the demolition. So the whole demolition got taken care of through state grants. Now, under brownfield, as long as you don't increase the total size, the dollar size of the brownfield plan, and as long as you don't create brand new activities that weren't already approved, you can change the amount that you spend on different parts of the activities. You still have to get approval from the brownfield authority, but you don't have to do a new brownfield plan. And so demolition's in there and parking is in there. And so the developer has come back to us, this is what's happening right now, and they've said, in order to meet zoning requirements for parking on a development like this, we're going to have to put in just a huge amount of surface parking, just like it used to look like around the hospital. Surface parking all around to take care of all these extra people. But we don't want to do that because we could double the density of this development if we do integrated parking. But integrated parking is very expensive. And so integrated parking is one of the things that you can put under a TIF, and they have come to the city and the Brownfield Authority, and they basically said, we'll do a $200 million project instead of a $100 million project that'll be not filled with parking lots, but we'll have integrated parking in these buildings. The property taxes will be roughly double. The amount of time it takes to pay it off will be roughly half. And it'll be a much better urban development if you're a city planner, where you want to concentrate people into a smaller area instead of sprawling out all over the world. This has now been approved, this idea. What's going to happen next is the specifics. So the specifics for the development agreement and for what this is actually going to look like is all going to unfold before your eyes. You should pay attention. They'll have to go to the city commission. They'll have to go to the planning commission. They'll have to go to zoning. So you have multiple places to influence this to get the kind of project you want. But it's pretty likely that something big is going to happen here. I would say that even if there is no specific affordable housing, the amount of housing units they're talking about here is so high that it will alleviate some of the housing crisis. Even if they're expensive, rich people, well, they could come from overseas or something, I don't know. But the idea is people who can afford it buy, and then their place is for sale and it trickles down. We'll see if it works out. But at any rate, it will help the housing. Now, before I take a question, I want to see if I have another slide. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
So our population is going to go up.
Yeah.
And so we will need to have schools for these people.
Right.
Now in Florida, they arrange for all that. You know, the flyer has to be for fire department and schools and all that. Have we put into any thought of that? Because we're talking about a lot of people.
Right. Brownfield hasn't. Hopefully, people above my pay grade are thinking about it, because I agree that this is like all these issues. And that's another perfect segue for the bigger picture. This is the most important part of the talk, in my opinion. Problems that brownfield cannot fix. There are too many people on the planet. I can't fix that. There are too many people who want to move into Marquette. I can't fix that. There are too many people obsessed with making money. I can't really do anything about that. There are too many people who see growth as the only solution every single time. And I don't like how many people are on the planet, and I don't want so many people to move to Marquette, and I wish less people would just go after their butt every single day. But I can't fix that. And war, crime, poverty, drugs, and education are all things which we as citizens have to pay attention to and be involved in to make a difference. Brownfield can help with some things, though. Sprawl. This is a great tool to counteract sprawl. Look at the difference between, let me give you 3 examples. City of Marquette proper, Marquette Township, Escanaba. Escanaba, no brownfield. Marquette City, great active brownfield. Marquette Township, sprawl. So brownfield's a great tool to counteract sprawl. Doesn't fix it, but it helps. Develop pressure on green spaces. Abandon areas that affect the surroundings. Think of what that hospital's going to do. If you don't like what's happening now, think of what would happen if that was left there for 20 more years. What would happen to the whole surrounding area? This is why the NMU Foundation got so involved. They're like, this is right next to us. We can't have an abandoned, gigantic complex just left to ruin the entire surroundings. Brownfield can help with that. Housing and job shortages. Can't fix it, but it can help. And this is the most important point of the whole day. Brownfield can help with the shortfalls for the city, the library, and the schools. It's not the opposite. People keep saying Brownfield's stealing from the city, from the library, and the schools. And it is exactly opposite. We are creating, using private dollars, funding which will increase all of those revenues. And this is the thing which even people in the know, I think, get wrong. I think they get it dead wrong. And you can try to convince me that I'm wrong about this, but I would just leave you with this, and I'll take millions of questions. Whatever's next for Marquette, Brownfield can help steer some of the inevitable development. Development's coming. It's coming. Brownfield can't stop it. City can't stop it. You probably can't stop it. But we can try to do it more in a smarter way than if we just let it go the way it's going to go. All right, lots of questions now. Okay, yes.
So what department is looking at increasing the sewer plant, there will be a huge need for extra infrastructure for
Yes.
all these people.
Right.
So what department is starting to think about the future here?
Well, so this is city.
I know it's not you, no.
Yeah, but so the city commission has to do budgeting, planning, and they have to look at what are our sewer needs, so the city commission has all that in their hands, right? They decide whether or not to build a sewer plant or to expand it, and that all costs money. And you have to do it, because if you don't, then you get sideways with the state and the feds. So,
And electric?
And electric, so all these things.
Power, yeah.
So it is, one of the things that's very frustrating is if you really want to be an active citizen that really makes a difference for all these things, you got to go to a lot of different meetings, right? So I mean, it's zoning, the planning commission, city commission, and state legislators that affect these laws. But I will say this, if you get discouraged with the fighting that goes on out in the world about politics, engage with the local community. The local community makes all the difference in the world, and for the most part, that partisan stuff doesn't happen there. And we need people to show up and engage and have their voices heard and participate and join boards and help these things go the right way. Other questions? Joanna?
In talking about population of Marquette, am I not remembering correctly that the population of Marquette went down in the census, the latest census?
Yeah, it's basically even. I mean, statistically even. It's like 21,000 before and after. And the whole UP is like the same level it was in 1880. So it went up during the mining era and it went back down. And people are projecting that more and more pressure is going to come here with climate change and all sorts of stuff. But yeah, right now, I would say Marquette is stable population-wise, right now.
I guess the population coming to the schools have been sort of shrinking over the years.
Very
So,
much, yes, very much.
I don't know if these developments alone reverse the outflow of people. And then, does widening the eligibility requirements for brownfield in any way dilute the initial attention on these
Yes.
horrible sites?
Yes, it does. Sure it does. So I mean, so it does in this sense only. There's only so many things that a person can pay attention to. So there's 7 people on this board, all volunteers, and we'll get to as many projects as we can. On the other hand, as Barry Polton, the architect, points out, you can do an infinite number of brownfield projects and it doesn't affect in any negative way any of your governmental budgets. As many as you have time to approve, you're basically funding.
Library will be closing in
30 minutes at 8:30.
Thank goodness. So you can do as many projects as you want. And I would say that for the most part, the answer is we can do as many projects as we can pay attention to. But, of course, if you want us to pay attention to only contaminated sites, we're going to be also paying attention to these other sites now.
So that might have a negative impact on the Cliffs Down site.
I doubt it. I mean, I think that we don't have so many projects in Marquette. We're okay. Right now, we're okay. If 100 developers come tomorrow, then we'd have to start to pick and choose. Yes? Oh, thank you. Yes?
Yeah, I want to say this has been great.
Oh.
You mentioned integrated parking,
Mhm.
and would you define that? And I noticed in my letters to the editor and
Yeah.
so forth, that people showed up and said, why did you tear down the parking structure that was perfectly fine?
I can answer that.
And then are you going to build another one? So
Yeah.
could you?
Now, integrated parking means that instead of having surface parking that is separate from the building, could be in the back of the building or it could be a lot, instead of having surface parking, you actually include the parking in the structure itself. So usually what that means is it's underground parking that's underneath the building. There's a lot of different ways you can do it. It just basically means it's part of your structures, and so instead of having sprawled out surface parking, you have layered parking that's part of the building structure itself. The parking garage, so during the demolition phase, there was a lot of scrutiny on whether that should be preserved, and there was even talk about, well, if we kept that and we built a performing arts center, it could be part, right there with it. The cost of bringing it up to code was more than demolishing it. Now, that sounds horrible, but it's the truth. It's that to bring that structure up to code, because it was deteriorating, would have been more, I forget what it was, like $4 million to tear it down, and $4.5 million, don't quote me on those numbers, but it was more expensive to keep it than to tear it down. Yes?
So, with the site for the old MGH hospital, are there specific dates when things will start to happen there?
Yes, once we have, we will know soon. By soon, I mean, I would say the next less than 12 months, I think that a whole bunch of stuff will solidify. And I think there's going to be a lot of discussion. I think there's going to be a lot of pushing and shoving. And so I think it'll take a little while for that all to get finalized. But yeah, I think very soon, I would give it a 95% probability of going forward in some way. I would say it's likely that same probability that Viridia is going to be the one doing it. So now the question is, what specifically are they going to do, under what time frame, and at what cost? Yes?
Does Brownfield own the property then until the tip is paid?
Only in rare circumstances. So for the most part, no. It's private money going to private property, and then private property taxes going back to pay off the expenses of the developer. There are exceptions. The Brownfield Authority has the authority under state law to issue bonds backed by the city, so we can't exceed, we have to do this in coordination with the city, we can't exceed depending how close you get to your bonding levels, it changes your rating from AAA to AA. So we don't want to hit that, so the city won't let us hit that, but we can actually bond for things. So for instance, we bonded for the parking structure at the Vault Hotel, and I forget how much it is, it's a pretty big number. And what's going to happen is, once the bonds are paid off, the Brownfield Authority will own the parking structure, and we will turn around and give it to the DDA, and the DDA will then manage it, and then the DDA will own it. So there are cases where, and like those roundabouts are, I don't know exactly who owns it, it's this state highway, and there's public infrastructure that can be included, that can be paid for with these TIFs, and the public infrastructure continues to be owned by the public. Yes?
So I have another question, and you may not even know the answer to this, but you're pretty smart. So over on McClellan Street, where the parking lot that's not a part of the medical center,
Yep.
they have decided to put 4 or 6 houses there?
I don't know.
Uh,
I don't know anything about that.
Um,
Yes?
I have a question about Performing Arts Center, I think that's a brilliant use of that space. No more sitting in Kaufman Auditorium like this. Is that really something that they're looking at?
I will opine without a lot of support, so I mean, you know. I think that the developer likes the idea, but there's no way a private developer is gonna put in a performing arts center just for the heck of it. They're willing, but it would require, I think, that the university, it's in their strategic plan as well, it would require the university to get on board, the city to get on board, and for this, a coalition of private and public actors to seek grant funding above and beyond what's gonna happen from brownfield and all these other things to make it happen. So I think it's a possibility, but so far I haven't seen the public entities do more than say, wouldn't that be cool? University and the city, I think, are the two key players that if they were to really get on board and actually find a way to, you know, try to make this happen. I would love to play in Performing Arts Center, believe me. So I hope it happens, but, you know, it's going to take a lot of effort. Yeah.
So Northern's building all the new apartment buildings, and I understood they did not have to go through the planning commission in order to build those. So is that being taken into consideration with this whole new?
Yeah, that's it. So the city, this is one of the complaints the city commissioners always have, is there's a huge amount of Marquette that doesn't pay any property taxes and is not under the jurisdiction of the city. So it's like the state university, that's under state authority, the prison, there's a whole bunch of things that really it's the state that's, and there are federal things too. So yeah, that's a whole separate process. Now hopefully there's coordination, you know, between the city and the state, but again, I'm not doing it. Yes, pretty.
Is there a way that the individuals can influence in any way what happens with the development field?
The Viridian one? Yes. So now again, it is a private developer, so you know you can't probably force a lot. But my perspective, this is just a personal opinion. My perspective is that Viridia has a pretty good track record with brownfield. I mean, we've done that whole Staybridge thing was Viridia, and there's been other ones, and we've never had a problem within brownfield. And I get the feeling that this is like a legacy project for them, that they want to actually do something that is meaningful. And so I think that they're actually probably listening, and I think that they've already had open houses, they'll have more. I think that there's a better chance than usual that these developers will listen to the community, is my opinion.
We name it after them.
Yeah, right. Right. Absolutely.
Good job. There's a lot of meetings to go to, but what meeting would you go to talk about College Avenue being?
Planning Commission.
Planning. Okay.
Planning Commission is the most. Planning Commission is arguably more powerful than the City Commission. I mean, the City Commission has the final say, right? But the Planning Commission does all the work. So all this stuff, the form-based code and all these things, the Planning Commission is really involved in it. And that's a tough slog. They meet twice a month, and it's, you know, for most people it seems boring. Joanna likes it though.
Well, to my surprise, they have an enormous meeting schedule. But they cancel every other meeting.
Yeah.
It hasn't been as arduous as that.
So I'd say Planning Commission and City Commission are the two key pressure points for any of these large developments. Nothing is likely on this kind of a project without the City Commission and Planning Commission blessing.
Can't someone join our observer corps and help Joanna out?
If I can get 5 or 6 people to join the Observer Corps, I promise I'll become more active again. I've been kind of letting it slide a little because I got some really good observers, so I don't have to really do much to keep them. But if we had 4 or 5 more people, there's huge opportunities to observe. You learn so much about how things work. If you want to influence the local community, become an observer and then join a board. It'll make a huge difference.
What percentage of development in the city of Marquette is brownfield related? It seems like, there was development before brownfield.
Yeah.
So right now it seems like this private public interface is the way to go. So what percent is this brownfield? Because it does delay the taxes coming
Sure,
in
it does.
like 20 years.
Right.
There was developers before brownfield,
Right.
and they seem to be successful.
Yeah.
So,
That-
can you address that?
I think that is the key place where a brownfield authority could make a mistake, is a brownfield authority does not want to approve a project under a brownfield plan that would have been developed the same way otherwise. We're almost out of time. So I don't know what the actual percentage is.
It has to be huge,
Yeah.
right? A lot of those places you talked about could have been developed.
Yeah, so that's an important thing to watch, yeah.
Don't put your hand.
Thank you, everybody.